Just to make it clear to you what happened 3 years ago during the summer. You got the figures here from 2012, 13, 14. A rise or double the size every year. And suddenly we had the peak with 55,000 people coming in 2015. Actually, Berlin is responsible for 5% for all asylum seekers coming to Germany. 5%, but in summer and autumn 2015 we were confronted with the number of 79,000 people. 55,000 of them stayed for good. And it's exactly right what you said. In March 2016, when the balcony route was closed, suddenly we had a drain down to 16,889. And now we're close to the number of 8,200. For those of you who are interested in German politics, you might have heard the word Obergrenze, limitation. The limitation for all asylum seekers, which is supposed to be 200,000 if you listen to conservative politicians. And you see that we have 5% of all asylum seekers in Germany, and suddenly you're, with mathematics, you're around 160,000 refugees per year. You know that there are some people there watching our borders and opening the gates and closing the gates again. The main countries, the people coming to us were, over the last 3 years, Syria, then Afghanistan or Iraq, and we have a special issue here in Berlin. We are the place where all citizens from the Republic of Moldova, a very small European country, very poor, the poorest country in Europe, where they apply for asylum. Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Egypt. Turkey is about to rise, and these days they're third place. The ones who come to us and ask for asylum are often police or army officers, businessmen, solicitors and lawyers. Very well educated academics who cannot work in their home country anymore. Now, what we are responsible for is social benefits. We do register newcomers. Registration, security is a big issue for Germans, for the German public and for the German media and for German politics. And we, within the administration, we are very friendly, but we are not naive. Of course, we check whether the passports that are presented to us come from ISIS, because they sell them for $500 up to $1,200 each. Some of the people say, well, I lost all my documents. Then we ask them to think about whether they might have some documents on their smartphone. And if they say, no, I don't have any pictures of my phone, we ask them to follow us to the cabin where German police officers will body search them. And often we find stuff. We do find money. Iraq, for example. In Iraq, many of the banks were robbed. Iraq is a pretty rich country when it comes to the oil business. So sometimes we do have asylum seekers with $15,000, $20,000 on them. But the majority of the asylum seekers have got basically nothing. So we are in charge to provide them with accommodation, social benefits, social assistance. We do not ask them why they came to Germany. That's the federal office. That's not our business. What we do, first stage, is ask them, how do you feel personally at the moment? Are you sick? Are you pregnant? Do you know whether you're pregnant or not when it comes to women? We do have doctors and nurses in our arrival center 24 hours per day. We ask them whether they might have problems to live in a place due to to their sexual orientation. If there's somebody who's obviously not heterosexual, we try to find a safe space for him or her. When we have people there obviously who suffered trauma due to the war actions. For these people, we try to find a separate accommodation. So we try very hard in the city to fulfill all the needs that we are confronted with every day. And when we have our first medical checkup in the arrival center, 10% in the quick check, 10% of the people do suffer or well do have some special issues that we have to cope with. When they're registered within our administration and they stay in Berlin for good, most of them want to stay in Berlin because it's quite easy to survive in the city, speaking not a single word in German, but Arabic, no problem. Farsi, no problem. The community, you mentioned the social media, the community knows exactly which doctor speaks Farsi or Dari, and or where the nurse or an assistant speaks Dari and could translate. And they would travel all over Berlin to find the specialist. They are very well organized. They know exactly where to go shopping, where you get the food and the herbs and the spices of your home country. And after the registration process, when you might get the information that you're supposed to leave Berlin and go to a remote place somewhere in East Germany, people start to freak out because they know exactly there's simply nobody who would speak the language. Or, gentlemen, we provide in this city interpreters who speak Fula, Twi, and Mandinga. No problem. We do that. We organize that. You don't find it somewhere in Lower Saxony. That's why they want to stay in Berlin. Yes, we try very hard, and when it comes to the social benefits, it might be surprising to hear for the American people that we cover full medical care for free. Everybody gets a medical ID card which allows him or her to see a doctor or hospital of your own choice. And if even we pay even for the medication, it's for free. They get pocket money, 135 euros everybody, and a bit less for the kids according to their age. They get a 4 weeks pass for public transport in Berlin. We cover for accommodation and food 3 times per day for the first 4 weeks after they have their first appointment within our administration again, where we try to find out what how to influence the asylum seeking process and so on. So we are trying very hard to make it look good to everybody. Social assistance. We do have mandatory counseling and orientation sessions for arrivals. We inform about the asylum seeking process. We do have case management, as I said, for vulnerable people. Sometimes we were really surprised how people with old people, 80 years old, serious problems with their hips, with their legs, how they made it to Germany. But we try to care for them. And we do have professional assistance for social staff in refugee homes. Some of my colleagues will tell you. So let me say something about, because you mentioned it, about the accommodation situation in Berlin. Yes, it's not good. It's not good at all. But many Germans share the same fate. We don't find kindergartens, we don't find places in school, we don't find doctors. and we don't find apartments cheap enough that we could afford them. Many of the Germans. Every year, 40 up to 50,000 people arrive in Berlin to stay here for good, to study here, to work here, to have a family here. And they compete with the other 9,000 asylum seekers. And they compete with basically everybody else. So now our duty is to build up houses for refugees, knowing that we do have a challenge here. Yes, we do have container villages. Yes, we try to refurbish former administration buildings, build in showers, build in kitchens, to make private atmosphere possible for the people. Last year, only last year, we closed down the last school gym where people had to live in very, very bad situation. We moved 13,000 people last year into better places, houses, apartments. 13,000, and none of you guys from the media wrote a single line about this great achievement. Nothing. Because everybody expected it from German administration that they are able to move 13,000 people within 1 year. Funny. So now, current situation. We have 23,000 people living in our LAF, State Office for Refugee Affairs houses. 23,000. We are confronted with the situation that, for example, in June, last month, more than 1,000 people arrived in Berlin and asked for asylum. Increasing number, 35%. Yeah, weather conditions are great. The conflicts don't stop. We do still have people coming from Syria. We have the people from Iraq. We have the people from Turkey. And we have many, many people from Africa. Completely different story, because what you said, and which brings us as administration to a crucial point where we have to think about what do we do with cultural diversity. Arab people do sometimes have a problem to live together with black people. Oh yes. That's what we are confronted with in our houses. Although they're black people. We don't like that. The Arabs don't like Afghan people, and they're both Muslims. But they have got nothing to do with each other. And then we have people from Eastern Europe. Russia, Ukraine, Bosnia-Herzegovina. What do you think what they have in mind about Muslims or Africans? Diversity is a very important issue. And we, as administration, we have to be neutral all the time. Yes, neutral. Of course, we know there are more people coming. And as I said before, we are friendly, but we are not naive. There are 12 districts in Berlin. Each district is supposed to offer us a ground where we can build up a new building housing up to 500 people. District authorities were surprised. I said, well, but we have so many of them already, we cannot take more. Here's a map with the sites of where we have this is Berlin, and we got refugees all over. Well, we have lakes. We cannot build up houses in the lakes, and in the woods, neither. But there we have the distribution of where you see that in some districts you got more people. Sonnenallee, Neukölln, where all the Arabs gather together and enjoy, they only have 4% of the migrants. Whereas in other places, East Berlin districts, Lichtenberg, Marzahn-Hellersdorf, they didn't even have seen women wearing scarves in the past. We have about 30% of the people living there. Conflict. This is exactly where the right-wingers, AfD, populists gain votes. Pankow, Marzahn, Lichtenberg, they all made it directly to the parliament, ladies and gentlemen. All right, the housing market, very tense. Own apartments, we do cooperate with local businesses, but we only pay the rent up to a certain amount, which is regulated within our laws. For refugees, we pay 20% more than we would pay for German people looking for social housing. This is something that I tell you now. This is something that I would never ever tell the media. 20% more. But still, it's hard to find. Okay, as I told you, we do have existing buildings like this former old people's home that we were trying to refurbish and where people moved in. We do have the container villages. Container, well, anybody speaking Russian here? They call it Transitgorodok. We do have the same name for this. We have different name for the same thing. Transitgorodok, like in the Ukraine or Poland or in Russia. These are pictures from the winter time. Nowadays we have flowers there. Some of the people mind their gardens. It is private atmosphere. After months and years in open space halls, gyms, the opportunity or the possibility to close the door and lock it is fascinating for people. Some of them didn't even use a light switch for a year or so. And now, I remember that one guy, Abdallah, who used the light switch all the time, on, off, Abdallah, you have to stop at some stage. And I said, well, I'm just enjoying. Okay, now this is the Berlin's answer to the challenges we are confronted with when it comes to housing. So-called modular homes. Modular homes are preformed concrete blocks that are put together within 52 weeks, and which are about to house 450 up to 550 people, existing of 2 main buildings and an administration building where we also put in the washing machines, the dryers, and so on. You see there, from the outside, they're slightly different depending whom we were cooperating with. Modular homes, first program, they were developed under the impression of this large amount of people coming, and we tried to make it very, very quick. And we didn't think about the fact that we are confronted with families with many, many children. So we built in small apartments for 2 people, 4 people, that was basically it. It wouldn't be enough for the needs of the families that we talk about and you talked about. So, what do we do? The modular homes, number 2, will be built in a form of apartment houses, which 3 and 4 rooms, which allows people with 4 children, 6 children to live there permanently in pretty good conditions. Of course, every single site that where people live in with us, they are run by organizations, might be NGOs, might be private business companies. They would supply social support, counseling, children's daycare, and so on. In a house like this one, we talk about 18 people, staff. Okay, that's good quality, and that's where we plan. That's where we planned the new buildings. And I can tell you, we have town hall meetings about this subject everywhere. And when I come up to the people, my fellow Germans and say, hey, we're going to build up a house, 450 people, nice people. Yes, are there Arab people coming, single, traveling, young men? Yeah, definitely. But we do have families and we mix them. Yeah, what do you think about it? Do you think that it's a good idea to have this ghetto there in our backyard? You know, what do you mean, ghetto? There are people from Syria, there are people from Iraq, there are people from Afghanistan, there are people from Turkey, from African countries. They're all mixed. And they live there and rather peacefully, I must say, rather peacefully. And sometimes I'm surprised myself that even though the conditions are not excellent, nothing to compare with Lebanon or Jordan, not at all.
Yes,
Not with Greece, not with Greece. Not with Greece and not with Italy. Definitely not, but not perfect, all right. But people live there together in peace. And we have all the kids in school. We do send people to language courses and integration courses, everybody, even pregnant women. They get their courses within the home they live in. And there are people there during that time when the pregnant women go to the language course who mind the small children that they might have. That's what we try to do. And I know it's a long way to go. And I like to work it like that. To be with people from many different countries. I really rely on my own people in my administration. There are Germans, there are Persian people, Arab people, African people, people from Eastern Europe, Poland, Russia, big time, Albania, good people. And we all have the same aim, to make it look good for everybody, to prepare a rather good situation to make integration possible. Yes, of course, some of them want to go back because they say, I'm never gonna learn this language. It's a mother-father language from hell. Habibi. Okay, we try it again. Mushtallah, kill you. No, you don't. You have to learn German. Yes, our internship program that we have in this society is very hard to understand. We are the only one following up. The Austrians too, but they don't want to anymore. And it is harsh. It is harsh, and the media ask us, when do you show our first big steps towards integration? I said, we just closed down the school gyms last year. What do you mean? Integration within a year or two doesn't work. It's a thing about generations. Your sons and daughters, they're in German schools, they learn the language perfectly. They muddle through. Yes, for people 35 years up, it's pretty hard. It's tough biscuits in this country. Yes, I know. Well, keep up the faith. Let's rub it together. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? We have time for like 1-2 questions. Yeah.
Thank you. Joseph from California. My question is, how adequate is the funding for LAF? And then a follow-up question to that would be, if you do feel it's inadequate, do you feel that the political atmosphere and neoliberal economic policies, such as what's keeping 45 Germans owning as much as 50% of the population of Germany, taking the money away from your administration and instead going to rich people?
Thank you. Money isn't a big issue. Yes, yeah, well, we are investing money, billions. It's okay, it's fine. As long as we invested in social infrastructure, nobody complains. Social infrastructure means kindergartens, schools, public transport, houses. We do have a lack of qualified personnel. We don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough child keepers, we don't have enough doctors. And funny enough, 10 years ago, we had a discussion within the German society that we're getting too old, that we don't have enough children, and that this will risk our lifestyle and our good business and worldwide. Now we have young people, and if you ask me, we have just simply have to train them. And there we need other programs. Their administration in Germany builds up hurdles which are too high. For example, when you think of the online trade, everybody is buying stuff online, but you still need people to bring you the stuff back home. We need something like 60,000 van drivers over the next 2 years. 60,000. But according to German law, you don't get money from state administration to do your driving license. Driving license is about 1,000, 1,500 euros. So, when you're from Afghanistan and you would like to work as a lorry driver, you don't have the money. So, if you're clever, you build a startup saying, yes, we're going to finance you the driving license, and here's your contract for 3 years working for UPS, DHL, Amazon Express, or whatever. And we take like 50 euros per month from your account, and you wouldn't even notice. Things like that. And there, we're not quick enough. Money-wise, buildings, schools, everybody says, yeah, welcome. Just investment, what we invested locally due to the refugees. I mean, there are people who found a job after years, not doing anything, living on the dole. People who were not qualified that well, who suddenly started to find a job within a catering company, preparing meals for the refugees in their communal houses. Suddenly working for the organizations within one of these new modular homes. Yeah, that's what happened globally. No, you work for Handelsblatt, the business paper. None of them ever complained that it's that's too much money that we invest. None of them. More questions?
Okay, we have questions. Like we have time for one more question. So. Okay.
I just want to ask you, what do you think about the conditions in Tempelhof?
I don't think I work for administration. I don't think at all.
You work for the office of
I don't think at
so
all.
you're the coordinator of the.
I'm not a coordinator. All right, Tempelhof. Tempelhof, for those of you who don't know what is Tempelhof. Tempelhof is a former airport, which was closed a couple of years ago, and which was the largest shelter for refugees in 2016-17, where in peak times nearly 3,000 people lived. Nowadays it's our welcome center. That is the place in the center of the city where you first come 24 hours per day and say, hello, here I am, I want to ask for asylum. And then my colleagues would ask, all right, fine, may I ask you where you come from, which language you speak, are you traveling on your own, just to inform people within the registration office for the next day. Do you speak a funny language? Funny language would be a dialect which about 5 million people on this planet speak, and we will try to organize somebody who speaks the dialect within a night. And then we do have a huge hall where these people stay during their registration process for the first 3 nights. No private atmosphere. The lights are switched off at 10 p.m. What else? Yeah, well, you might share your cabin with people you never knew before. Yes? But we do supply 24-hour medical assistance. We do supply psychological assistance. We do offer food 3 times per day. During the time they're in the registration office, they get their lunch packet with them. Yes. And 3 days, maybe 4. In peak times, 7 nights. It's warm. You get food, drinks. You can take a shower if you need a jacket because you're cold in this country here. We provide you with a jacket. Send you to the doctor. If the doctor's team is not able to help you, we will organize a transport to the next hospital. We're trying very hard. Yes, I know that some people say this is not human and we need another place. But, ladies and gentlemen, try to find a decent place for 400-500 people in the city of Berlin these days for an affordable price. End of story. We're trying very hard to find an alternative. It's nearly impossible. Imagine, you made a way to this place here this morning, right? Now, if you're from Afghanistan, from Masari Sharif or Herat, or if you're from Rafah, try to find your way to this place here. Tempelhof, everybody knows what Tempelhof is. Please show me the way to Solkauer Straße. Oh, I'd love to have a huge welcome center there. I'd love to have cheap apartments. I don't have them. Not yet.